Okay, hopefully this turns into a semi-productive video. I've got to clean up the bench and I feel like talking, so here we go. I want to talk about my Bearcat saws. These are 4 saws that I had made by Brian at Bearcat Woodworking. I forget his exact business name. That sounds so horrible, but I'll put it on the screen. I always forget. Anyway, I purchased a set of saws, had him make me a second set. So some of you guys may remember that I used to have a 3-piece setup here that was myrtle wood, which the wood was a little bit more favoriting this backdrop here than this darker color. These are Cocobolo. Anyway, why don't I have those saws? Well, there's nothing wrong with them. I purchased those saws, man, a year and a half, 2 years ago, year and a half, something like that. It was a while ago, and they worked great. Nothing was wrong with them. But I had an opportunity to pass them along to somebody else, and that's what I did. So, long story short, my wife's, a friend of my wife's at work was from Spain. She was a doctor from Spain visiting the United States, working on her residency. And while she was here, her husband was here, just basically doing whatever he could to provide for the family. 2 really awesome people, by the way. And as their time in the United States was nearing an end, they were going back to Spain. They had a little, I guess, going away party or something like that at a local restaurant in town, and we went to it. And while we were there, we kind of hit it off and talked with them a little bit. Invited them over for dinner the next day or 2 days from then, something like that. Well, anyway, during the conversation in town, Ishmael, if I'm not mistaken, was the gentleman's name, the husband's name, and he said that because things are so hard to find over in Spain or just hard to import, I'm not exactly sure the specifics, but it's less expensive for him to, while he's here in the United States, purchase and acquire anything that he can and spend $800 on a pallet in a shipping container to ship all that back home, and that way he has some stuff at home. And that just kind of puts things into perspective, you know. Here in the United States, or well, North America, I guess, we take things for granted. But anyway, after finding that out and after knowing that they were going to come visit us and have dinner with us one night, I kind of gathered some stuff here in the shop to give to him. And then I also contacted Brian at Bearcat to see if he would be interested in making me another set of saws if, by chance, I give them the original set to Ishmael. And so that's what I did. Brian said yes, and I gave the saws to Ishmael, and just being in a position to where you can give and help people out, that's pretty awesome. So that's what I did. And then a few weeks, a month, 2 months, whatever it was later, I got these. And just like the first set, these are amazing. And I tried to clean up as I'm working, but I can't do 2 things at once. So I'm going to clean this off and then bring the saws down. These are the 4 saws, and they're not in the cleanest condition because they've been used quite a bit. I've used these regularly, pretty much on every project as needed. Since getting these, I've also taken them to Oklahoma for the Skytook Woodworking Outdoor Adventure Thingy-Majig Extravaganza. And a lot of people had the opportunity to use these, so that's really cool. And these aren't just something that are pretty and sit up on the shelf. A lot of people have used these so far. Nothing but awesome positive feedback, and not only do they look killer, they cut tremendously. They're just really awesome. So, really quick, we've got a dovetail saw, a carcass saw, a tenon saw, and then a halfback combination saw. This thing is it's really cool. It crosscuts, it rips, and it's you've got some stability over here on this side of the blade where the back is, and then if you really just need to work your way down through a piece to where a back would limit your cut depth, then you've got all of this over here. But just phenomenal saws. Do you need 4 saws? No. Do you could use 1 or 2 saws for just about everything. But having different options, just like with any other set of woodworking tools, is really nice. So the dovetail saw is filed at a rip tooth. It's filed rip for rip cutting. Getting tongue-tied there. And it's tapered a little bit, so it's less depth over here than it is on this side. And the taper, this is the first time I've cut with a tapered saw, and it's really interesting how, you know, when you're cutting, you can see on your side of the cut, and that's how you determine your depth. Well, if you can't see on the opposite side, you just kind of have to guess. Well, if you hold your saw level, like you should be anyway, then as you cut on the back side, the side that's closest to you, to your depth line, you pretty much guarantee that you're not going to cut all the way to the depth line on the other side due to the taper, which is good. That way you don't go deeper than what you need. Having a crosscut saw, dedicated crosscut saw, is extremely handy to just throw a couple bench hooks on the saw and cut some smaller stuff that you otherwise wouldn't want to necessarily cut on a powered miter saw, or just use it for all of your cuts, really. And then, of course, a larger tenon saw is filed rip, just like the dovetail saw, but it gives you much greater capacity here, and it's just overall a bigger saw. And this multi-use saw, I guess. I think he said, I'll try and find it in the email, but he said that, if I'm not mistaken, he really liked this particular style saw for just a quick, you know, second-rate cut that you didn't want to go to a power tool for, or something like that. But it's fantastic, and I find that I use all of these pretty frequently, actually. So the handles, these two handles, as you can see, are closed handles, and all of these are sized to my hand. I took a picture of my hand in a certain orientation holding a ruler, so he could see the exact size of my hand. And man, I tell you what, there's something to be said about anything you can get that's custom. When something just fits your hand, I mean, as the saying says, it just fits like a glove. It just feels comfortable. If it's not both comfortable and convenient, you're not going to use it. So I have other saws here too. So this is, really quick, this is a Cosmin Dovetail Saw, which is a nice saw. Nothing wrong with it, really. It's bigger than my hand, so my hand slides around in it. Not that that really matters too much, but due to the fact that they all cut pretty much the same as far as performance goes, this Cosmin versus these Bearcat saws, having one that is, like I said, just fits like a glove, that's the one I'm always reaching for. So there's something to be said about having a custom handle here. I picked out the woods. These are Coco Bolo, and they have mother of pearl inlays. And all of Brian's saws have, I think all of them, have this unique scalloped back to them. Just a creative touch. You know, it doesn't affect the performance any, but just a visual interest, which is really nice. And then these, all of these have my logo in the little button here, cap, whatever this is called. But he has an inset, or an inlay, that is the same Coco Bolo as the handle. And then inside that inlay is another inlay of my logo, which is brass dust. So I imagine while he's cutting all these, he does generate a lot of dust, and he said he saved some, and he had this idea to use brass dust as an inlay, and I said go for it. So he did, and man, did it just adds a nice little personal touch. So the dovetail saw and the carcass saw have an open handle, and like I said, these two have a closed handle. All of the woodworking part of these is just phenomenal. They just, I mean, they look so, they look so great. Doesn't matter how good a saw looks, if it doesn't cut worth a darn, then you're not going to use it. So I've got the best of both worlds with this set, and I don't see a need for any other saw in woodworking, really. These do everything that I need them to do. I've got a piece of 3/4 inch thick hickory here in the vise, and just to mess around a little bit, this is the dovetail saw. Cuts really good. And then let's see, we are still ripping, so here's the tenon saw. Cuts really good. And then here's the halfback saw. Then of course cross cutting, those are all rip cuts. here's the crosscut saw, or the carcass saw, that has crosscut teeth on it. Oh, and then here is the halfback in cross-cutting orientation. I put the board vertical once again in the rip cut direction just to compare, not really much of a comparison, but just to show the Bearcat saw and the Cosmin in action at the same time. Again, both of these saws are great. This one it has 22 TPI up right at the front right here to start the cut, and then 12 TPI to be a little bit more aggressive ripping through the cut. I find 12 TPI, a lot of people like it. I would much rather have finer teeth, and I'll show you why in just a second. Again, this is 3/4 inch hickory, so it'll do the job just fine. But once you start to get into the cut, I don't know if you can hear it, but it feels like the blade is just digging and jumping around. It's not smooth. Let me take that back. It is smooth, but it's not as smooth as the other one. The aggressive nature of the teeth just make it feel like it's kind of ripping or jumping around. Again, does the job just fine. This thing is custom fit to my hand, so it fits like a glove. And this is, if I'm not mistaken, 18 TPI. Cuts just as fine as well. So both of these are great saws. You can't go wrong with either one. But in my opinion, having something that's custom made to your hand and options as far as tooth patterns go, this is basically the reason why I always pick up this one and not this one. Anyway, that's just a look at these saws, the quality and craftsmanship. I'm a huge fan of Brian's work. I did buy all of these, including the Cosmin. I paid money for all of these, so like I said, this isn't sponsored or endorsed by anybody, but just an honest look at these tools. I'm not sure if Brian is still making saws custom order. I think he is, but you might want to contact him to verify. And if he is, then the last time I checked, he had a waiting list. So sooner rather than later, if you're interested in getting a set of your own, custom made to your hands, you get to pick out all the options and all that stuff. Just a fantastic quality product and a really good guy, really good craftsman. So kudos to him, and yeah, support small businesses whenever you can. You guys take care, have a great day, and I'll catch you next time.